do you guys want to talk about any specific thing? Michelle, you have any
Uh,
questions regarding this?
no, I'm all for listening, and I'm very
Okay,
excited to hear. So, yeah.
okay. So what I was saying is the tradition of satsang, you know, that's the association of good people, was carried out by people who were not at all commercial, you know, who were not doing these associations for some, business, some profit, something like that, So they were gathering together because they had true questions on existential issues. Who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we going? What is death? What's going to happen? What is our somebody else is coming to. So that kind of uh, orientation allowed them to keep their regular business apart from this. Okay, so that kind of hello, Lupe. Uh, so that kind of association helped them to really focus on just the truth, nothing but the truth. So it's a kind of uh, I look like,
Hi, I'm sorry I'm late. How are
yeah,
you? Yeah,
we just
Dr.
we
Yeah.
just, we just started. We were talking about a tradition that I wanted to introduce to people. This is not really lost in the modern days either. A lot of people do that. What it is satsang, association of good people to explore issues of life. You know, there's no commercial interest. They didn't even identify with each other. Who is what kind of advantage I have with this person's association? None of this. They were just there. They didn't bother about the socioeconomic status, gender, political standing, or societal standing. None of it. What they did was they did more like explore things as they come up. That has resulted in really learning from mind to mind, not even from their past knowledge or scholarship or none of it. People came from their native intelligence. What is this? How can I really understand life? How can I understand life issues? That kind of thing. What I see in the LinkedIn is people are not really engaged in a deep conversation on a continuous basis. Like they are learning from everybody, but learning what? They are learning some technique or something. So that kind of exploration, I kind of thought we should at least do it privately, for the people who are involved. So meditation is something that everybody is interested, right? Everybody wants to have the meditation. So I thought I would start with that, with this introduction of the tradition of satsang. You know, that is like I know you guys from the LinkedIn, but I'm really interested in what is that you are exploring. What is that I can share that I have really, um, you know, um, living rather than teaching or something. So when you do that, we will go into the history of meditation and also what is the modern need. And me being an informatician, I looked into the information overload as a thesis for my, master's. Okay, so what was found was this explosion of technology worsened this much more, the need for meditation. People are going neurotic with the phones. In the kids also, they cannot leave the phone. Cannot. They are ready to that. One hand is free, other hand is phone. And even when they are, kind of in the same room, they're chatting on the phones. So that is kind of making people really lose that human conversation, human relationship, and all that. At least I feel that with the kids. They cannot even have a dialogue sometimes. How are they going to relate to their spouses or their significant others down the line? I don't know. So that's a big problem. So all these things made me realize, let us look into this meditation thing rather deep and see what are the common things and what is the ultimate I kind of experienced. It may be more, I have to look into that, but at least relate to people. So let's make this a little bit of a discussion. I will start. So you guys have any meditation practice that you would like to share or you want to ask me about? Yeah, let's say Michelle has that. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. Actually, my husband has been meditating, I think, for 20 years, and I started last year.
So what do you do?
I What I do now,
Mhm,
that's easier, and that's something that I have found out helped me more.
mhm,
Every morning, before I get out of bed, I take some water and
mhm,
I put my headphones in, and then I have 10 minutes of chakra
mhm,
meditation with the binary beats.
mhm,
And afterwards I actually just have the sound of an air condition
mhm,
for 15 minutes to just empty my mind, and that's hard. So to focus on a sound
mhm.
helps me and just go down to the level so my vibration rises and I am ready for the day. So that's how I meditate. That's the best way for me, actually.
What happens during the day though?
Sorry?
During the day, once you go on to the work, what happens during that day? Do you carry the same thing through the day or?
Sometimes it's easier. It's always easier if I've meditated to go to work, and it's my the things that I if I have with children with different diagnoses, and sometimes I can they are very, I learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
That's the nice way of saying it. So, what my temper. I don't have a temper with them. So I am more at in balance. I can think clearly and everything. So everything comes together. But it's still, I'm a human being. So that's contrast. But I take the contrast in life lot easier when I've meditated. It's just like, okay, I'm sitting, driving,
You're
there's a
more
lot
centered.
going
Yeah.
through.
You're
Yeah,
more
I'm more, yeah,
centered. Yeah.
that's a
Centered
good
and
word,
then,
and centered.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Lupe, you have anything?
Yes, good morning, everyone. And this is my first time. I'm glad I have this opportunity. Like, I would love to be here every time, but this is the time that I cannot have. So glad to know that, Dr. Yao, we had a couple of exchanges through the phone call. He's such a wonderful man. And you can, from my conversation with him, I just feel his generosity, his being present and connected. So what I has been practicing for the past 8-9 years is spiritual awakening, which is from the mind wake up to our true essence. It's a practice through the time, And there's tons of, I always say, awakening from how we conditioned. As far answer your question, now my routine is in morning. Uh, for some reason, I had a hard time, lousy wake up since I was little, since I had a memory. So it's challenging. So now I'm practicing yesterday. Actually, y'all we talk about is being present, not resist it, and give some time.
Yes.
And also I did a lot of methodology, but right now I'm just kind of accept it and then present by meditation. I do meditation for many, I would say at least consistently in the morning for 2 years now. For the past 3 months, I was using the same kind of meditation is chakra as well. So chakra integration, Michelle, is me that integrate is guided. And I think that helped me ground it more into my body. And recently I started actually, instead of just sit quiet, but due to time constraint, I need to also exercise. So I'm in the morning, get up, and then I starting exercise biking on the stationary biking and with meditation for the chakra together. So that's what I do. And then afterwards, I will going to set the intention for my day, literally journaling.
Yeah.
And after that, through the day, to answer Dr. Yao's question, how I carry my day, actually, I was practice being alert to my thoughts, especially my emotion triggered. I was using that as access to see where I has touched or what there is to transcend or transform. So that neurotic triggering, and I have the opportunity to look at it and work on it to release it. So fundamentally, where I'm knowing I'm going is really be the essence and sit the conscience, the eye of the conscience, and embrace all that is. There's no right, no wrong, no judgment. And surely in that present, I think we're going to arrive we're talking about a blissful, loving conscience. So that's my practice now.
Good. What it is the way I would put in one word, as I understand, ancient civilization to technical modernization. That has become our bane. See, they had few things to do. They had few things to possess to. They had a simple life, but they had higher thinking. So what we did was we kind of reversed it. Modernization, we have technology, we have so many things outside and all comforts and all that, right? But in simple thinking, we kind of don't want to do, I mean, as a society, I'm not talking about individual person. As a society, we want to write books, discuss about all that, but never leaving the mind alone, So when we want to use substances and all that to calm our mind down, So as a society, if you look at it, people are not really looking for themselves to calm their own minds. And then to really use the mind properly. Lots of time it is the mind dictating to us. Go and do this, go and we don't even know what we are thinking, what is coming up, and we pursue each thought. And then we form a network up. And then from that, all the neurosis arises. And all the suppose we say something that we don't want to say to somebody, and that goes on for years and years and years because we take the hurt and respond back, all that, right? So it's all a question of how we look at it as a medical unit. Also, we think we are the body or we are our thoughts, right? Ancient civilizations, they had thousands of years of discussion where they said, hey, body and mind are my tools. I'm really the conscious self within. My orientation towards the meditation is how can we be the witness of my body and mind and be stationed in that self most of the day. Actually, my experience is very blissful. You know, also the mind works better because there is no hang-ups or no judgments or kind of ease on your system because the mind is not producing the stress hormones. So all through the day, you do more work with less havoc on your system. How does it work is, suppose I'm a physician, I go to the hospital, and then I have so many daggers coming at me from so many things, right? Work and nurses or whoever it is, there are a lot of things will come at me. And then if I go on getting myself irritated or go on myself really angry or whatever, then in my own system, I produce the stress hormones. This everybody knows. But they learn to deal with it, they think. And then they learn on the long run, why I have some adaptive mechanisms I'm going to do with that. I'm not going to neglect it. But the problem is some of the residual of those will accumulate through the day, through the night, and they don't allow you complete rest and regeneration. So for somebody like me, meditation is all day and through the night. You can come to that just by understanding and also self-studying. We don't have to report to anybody. We don't have to say, I'm like this, so you judge me, I'm kind of a neurotic person or depressive person, anxiety person, none of it. There is a method of self-knowledge. How did I get up? What is in my mind? Am I worried about something that's going to come up in the next hour or 2 hours? Or am I dragging on something that I thought about it yesterday? And then, like for example, we meet a friend. Immediately, the friend's thing will come. All the uh, remembrances, personality traits, all the experience that we had will come to us, right? The challenge is, can we put all that aside and then meet that person that day, right? So, I mean, there is some understanding we have to get right, but the easier way is how we start the day, how we do the waking hours, and how we go to sleep. If you can understand these simple things, then I can go into the details and questions and all that, okay? Suppose you get up in the morning. First thing is we reach for our phone, our iPad, for our email, right? Delay that. Do you delay that? You don't go to them right away? For a few minutes, at least delay that, and then focus your senses on the surroundings in your presence and on the things around your weather related to the nature. Then what happens is, okay, I am centered within myself and I'm also communicating with the nature, which is also expanding or extension of. So you kind of get to that presence that is in you. That's what you're talking about, Lupe. And then you start with that. On the other hand, what I discovered was, if I don't do that, my thought, that is the first thought starts, and then it goes into a network. One thought leads to other thought. So if I think of the hospital, immediately how many patients are there, how many in the ICU, how many, all those things will come, and then you run with it, Or if I think of something political, something happening, and I see the news, and my thought will go on. The network of thought is such that one thought leads to the next one, next one, next one, right? So we kind of focused on that, then we don't be in the presence during the day. So what you want to do is you go to the work, whatever, and then you have some situation, Don't let the situation evoke a reaction in your brain. Usually our personality, our brain immediately comes and then we react to it, okay? You can react and you can do the work without really having that negative things about it. So this is the presence you want to practice during the day. You may not be able to practice all the time, but at least come to that once in a while. I recommend people to come every 1 hour for 1 minute. You can do that very simply by taking deep breaths in that 1 minute and associate this understanding. Hey, I'm not this just body and mind. I'm just interacting with other things, but then my mind, all the agitations, all the angers, and all those things, which we think, okay, because we want to maintain a diplomatic front, we kind of react, but we kind of hide it. I don't want this person to see or this work to see. But all those things are in a minute form, they form on your neuroendocrine axis system. This is the psychoneuroimmunology. Your feelings, your thoughts, and all that, they interact with the hormones, and those hormones are not good for you, provided it's go on doing that. See, matter what we do, we kind of react, and then later on we want to have a smoke or we want to have drink or something, and they become a crutch for us down the line. A lot of people know that, right? So very simple thing is, am I in the presence in the morning? Can I do my meditation, whatever I'm doing, in the presence? And then can I come back to it again and again? What happened in the beginning for me was I had to deliberately come back to that, right? And later on, that became normal. The other thing is the abnormal. So it's a question of habit. We were never told by anybody, go to the work, just do your job, don't have to have all these negative things in you, But everything is so subtle, so sophisticated, so much people miss opportunities to solidify that presence. Lupe was talking about I sense and all of that. That is where you have to be stationed in. My mantra used to be, am I in the present? Okay. Actually, I used to see it on the app, am I in the AIP? Am I in the present? There is actually a photograph there. And that used to be on my iPhone. The moment I see it, I was going into the presence, right? So eventually, being in the present becomes the normal, right? But it takes a lot of understanding, a lot of consciousness, a lot of presence and all that. But each one has different things, Then once you are working there, don't let your mind go off the work. That means attention to everything. You are driving, attention. You are in the office, taking the stairs, attention. You are working, attention. Be attentive to whatever you are doing. You can use the mind for that, but don't let the mind take its journey wherever. That is the nature of the mind, right? It runs. But if you are deliberately bringing your attention to what you are occupied with, then you are controlling that wavering. So pay attention to every action. That's what I promote and teach everybody and tell everybody to. So if I'm watching TV program, just watch that. If I'm playing with the kids, just play with them. And they love it if you are completely attentive to them. And everybody feels that every parent knows that how much the kid loves when we are completely attentive to the kid at that time, without judgment and all. So during the day, pay attention to everything. In the beginning, it will be like kind of a little neurotic, but then you can come back to it every 1 hour. Say, did I see? Suppose 1 hour you reflect on that. Okay, this meeting happened. I had these decisions made. When I'm going to do, I'm going to pause. You can revise, but then forget about it for the next meeting. This is what I had to do with my patient. I have a patient. I saw him. He gives me a lot of stuff about him. Then I go to the next patient. I cannot carry all this to him. Professionally also, I have to be available to the next patient, right? So that's a very, very valuable thing. Suppose I get irritated with this patient, then just being aware of it calms it down a little bit, at least. It all depends on person also. But then slowly, normally, it becomes like a reaction between what he needs and what I have to do and all of that. But then the question is not him. The question is how I am responding, how I'm reacting to the situation. Okay. Once you have that, then through the day you are done, you come home. Don't go to sleep with all these agitations or remnants or whatever. You have to rectify them by going through all of them before sleep. So don't go to bed with all these things accumulated, worries, agitations, whatever. Right? So what you do is, okay, I'm going to recollect every incident in reverse order from 9 o'clock. I'm going to sleep, right? From there all the way to the morning. Then what happens? You kind of go to sleep. All these things are resolved and kept away. Then the mind will sleep better. In the morning, again, you get up. You don't reach for all those sources that can trigger this I thought and continue. You just take some time. And then suppose you have so many things. Yeah, Misha, go ahead. It's not muted.
Michelle, you need to mute yourself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was just sitting. Yeah, okay, great. I didn't see it as meditating, but now you're saying it. Every evening I write in my journal. I write 5 things that I'm thankful for that day, so that I have a positive thought when I go to bed, and I have my purpose I've written down. I read that, and a self-esteem 6 steps for self-esteem. I read that every evening, so that when I lay down, it's not that much what's the negative, but the positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah.
journaling and writing down all the things we're going to do tomorrow, our affirmations about ourselves, they're all good, But the awareness, presence, that is the one you cultivate not only through the day, it becomes a habit really, and then in the evening also. It's not like you are being stubborn, you are just aware, Suppose you are really upset or you're really agitated, then you can take some few deep breaths, and that you go back to that. Then actually your mind clears, you can solve the problem better.
I agree a lot, and
Yeah.
it's actually the most of my life I've been searching to be in control, but it was when I stopped trying to be in control and actually just breathing and relaxing that I got control. So
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah, that is the thing. If you go, I don't want to go into too much depth of this neuropsychiatry, but that basically breath and mind are connected. They come from the same source. So if you control the breath, you control the racing of the thoughts. Okay. And then if you control your thoughts, your breath actually goes down. So in yoga, they will breathe only 4 or 5 times a minute. Versus us, we can talk to 18 times, but they breathe only 4 or 5 times. Actually, their longevity is better because they breathe less. And now I'm working on my treadmill this morning. Then I remember that breathing, and then I do that. While I'm doing it, I do more of stuff. Suppose I'm getting some tired or something like that, when I breathe deeply like that, it gives me incentive to go faster, too. But actually, the yoga has this science of thought, how they form, how they expand, and how they stabilize, and they become your form remembrances that they come up when you are not even thinking about them. Your impression about a relative, oh, this guy is a mean guy, for example. And then you think of only the meanness that you have done. But next time he sees you, he may be repenting that, he may have changed. But your ingrained thoughts, they come up. That image that you built it up. So in self-knowledge, what happens is we can see that, hey, I'm carrying an image from the past to the present. But I'm not in the present. I'm carrying something from the past. That is the self-knowledge I'm talking about. So you don't have to tell anybody. You can see it yourself. And otherwise, a lot of people exploit you, will prepare you now. But this is a technique where you can see for yourself, and just by seeing, you can change it. See? So in the night, lots of things happen in the dream sequence, and then you have to have that deep sleep by calming your mind in the dream state. You know, how you do that is during the day, if you are attentive to everything, you will have less to deal with in the dream state. I'm putting like that simply, but there's a lot of mechanism involved in that. But basically, how we live the day, if you are not sleepy during the day, that means you are bringing up all the stuff from the past, but not what is in front of you. Then you are sleeping to the present. So don't sleep to the present, be awake to the present. That means all the past knowledge, all the future imagination, you want to get it to control, you know. So now you guys talked about chakra system, right? Do you know all the chakras and what they represent? Yeah.
Before we yeah, before we move through that chart, I want to have a question on the regard of the sleeping and also the during the day, you unwind your day. I think I mentioned this a little briefly last time the conversation.
Yeah.
Is that through the day I do my best of being present, and what happened through the practice, I noticed I couldn't remember my whole day like linear, like before. Before when I'm not practice present, and I can remember the whole day details. So by the end of the day, I also reflect what I did the whole day.
See,
If I don't have no,
it's not linear time loop. What it is what was our, it's called modulation of the brain happened. Suppose I'm talking to you and I yelled at you. You had a reaction of that in your mind, right? You get upset or you get angry or you give it back to me, whatever. And that emotional life you have to recollect. Not the events as such, as much as how you responded to the life's events. You don't want to be unhappy, right? And also you don't want to secrete all these stress hormones to do that. That's why I brought the work. I go to the hospital, there are so many needs, so many people really, dealing with their own thing. Somebody will be doing one routine, other routine. If it doesn't really coordinate, then they have problem. Then they yell at each other. Even in the heat of the day, still people feel bad about it, or some people do it more, some people less, right? Those kind of emotional events, you have to recollect and see, did I have to do that, or can I really take it into my account and then go about work? So there's something called doing the work with the hands and having a silent mind. When I first learned about it, it was like kind of, so that means I don't use my skill, my knowledge. That's not it at all. You can use them better if you are stable, right? If you are not emotionally upset or negative way, or you can, some people think like, I'm not going to be able to do this. It's beyond me. I don't have that. That kind of thing feeds on itself and then takes away your capacity. But if you take that away, then they do better. For example, cricket, if the guy goes there batting and he's thinking about, I have to make so much money or runs, he will not be able to make it, because that is what he's thinking about. He's not facing the ball coming at him. This is anywhere, any task, we have to be with the task in the present and give all our faculties to it. So these habitual reactions that we say we are human beings, we cannot escape. It's not so. Actually, human beings have this emotional, intellectual, bodily components, but beyond that, is this witness consciousness, which can manage these things if you are in there. Usually we put that to the bottom and bring our mind and intellect to the front. And then that's why sometimes we are confident, sometimes we are not, because we are only in that layer. Yoga has this description, 5 layers of body and all that. In that, one is where the mind and the endocrine system, all these things work together. Now, suppose you are in a flow of doing anything. When you are in flow, when your mind is silent, you're playing tennis, for example, and you know it so well, you are hitting it all, you don't think, you just play. Right? We all feel that. Any particular activity, you take it, how we are in flow is when our mind is, suppose you are driving the car, initially you have to pay attention to every action, but then later on you learn, okay, this is how I can really drive. You don't have to think about it. Everything comes to you, right? Only when somebody is going to do an accident or something, you awake. Otherwise, you'll be thinking something else. And that's also not advised, but basically, that's what happens in any technique. You learn each step first, then your system gets into it. It forms its own neurological pathways. They react like that. What is the negative about that is external things and all the fine, but the internal feelings, internal attitudes, and all those things we develop, they go and bury in subconscious, and they come when you don't need them. Suppose you're a test cricketer, what I was watching the cricket, a lot of life in the golf, for example. You are playing golf, and then you have this reputation, like I'm a Tiger Wood, I'm supposed to win this kind of, and he goes on thinking about that, then he's not there for the tournament, right? He's not in his flow. The less he thinks about it, the more he focuses on that, he will win that. So this is, there's a lot more on that. I will talk to you down the line. But then what it is to be in the flow, you just have to be aware of what is your interior? Where is it going? Can I do something about it? For all that is conscious action. Whatever you are doing, give complete attention. Usually mind will go to the past or future. Then what you do is you deliberately bring it back. And that's the tool is to bring it back to your breathing. That's the simple thing to start, okay? You experiment tomorrow. Take your day and see, am I involved with what I'm doing, or am I going somewhere? Then what happens is you focus on the work and it gets done better. The quality and the focus, everything improves just by being in that witness consciousness. I think, Lupe, that's what you are talking about. You know, you allow that I thought to come at the time you come back to this. Initially, there will be some time. Other thing happens is in meditation, all these ingrained thoughts, they come up. Don't fight them. Let them come up and then peter them out. Just like a flower, when it is flowering, you allow it to flower. Just like that, those thoughts, they come and go. Yeah.
Now, I just kind of based on that, what I'm experiencing more and more is my thoughts versus kind of like a floating foam, floating foam on the surface. And I'm like a deep sea, the ocean, but I see the surface coming, and I see, oh my God, all of this. And when I'm like, say, I'm in the present, I'm supposed to do this thing really present, but this thought just come in, and come in. Right now I'm distinguished that. I said, oh my God, how can I concentrate if I have this floating, like interrupt the space, right? Now more and more I have that separation.
I will give you an analogy. Probably you can remember that easier. What happens to the rivers? They're flowing, right? They're going into the sea, Okay, that analogy I'm going to explain to you how it is. The water is in the sea, right? It's very stable, peaceful in the interior. It's all, only on the shores you see the waves, right? But on the interior, it's all huge volume of this one. And then the depth you go, the more silent the water it is, right? So it is there. It's a kind of state of meditation like. Then the water gets vaporized by the sun and it goes and forms the clouds, right? And the clouds are restless and they absorb all that water and go, and then they go to the places where water is needed and the water comes out, right? When the water comes out, it forms small streams and it's restless, it goes into rivers. Rivers are restless until they join the sea. This is something that we see that, right? So like that, if you are stationed in your real awareness, the self, the consciousness, from there you become restlessness or dullness in thoughts. The restlessness that you are feeling. Until those thoughts settle down and go back into the sea, they will not go away. So what you are allowing the thoughts is, let them come and stay there, and then next stay in your subconscious and then come back next day. So you are not allowing them to flow through your consciousness, because you have to be in the consciousness and then follow each thought as it happens. Or the froth also, where did this come from? You have to investigate. That is a very advanced practice, what's called self-inquiry. Once you are there, then you're always in meditation. Probably yeah, go ahead, Michelle. Michelle.
It's just I can relate to the water also, and for me it's like I'm on a river and also along the day, and sometimes I focus on something that's not being in the moment, and maybe, let's say, call it a negative thought, and it's for me, and suddenly I realize I'm going upstream. I'm paddling and it's hard, so I visualize going downstream because that's easier, and then I just drift along, and then the thought I had is behind me. It's not as easy as it
See,
sounds.
all you
Sometimes I
are
want
doing
to
is
paddle upstream.
all you are doing is you are remaining in the thought.
Yeah. So I wanted to pass. So I'm just going downstream and letting the thought pass. So it will, I am recognizing it. I'm seeing it. I know it's there, and then I let it go instead of saying I don't want to think about it. Don't want to think about it. Don't want to think about it.
No,
Then I'm
see,
thinking about it.
you are perpetuating the thought by itself. That is the
Exactly.
network of thought. What you need to have is something other than the thought. You have to go. That is the consciousness. You have to switch from that to that consciousness. That is the awareness. That is the presence. So in the morning, you have to cultivate to touch that and then stay in that during the day. Then you can use your mind for all that. That's what I tell my wife all the time. We both talk about this all the time. We don't want our mind to deplete us. We want our mind to be our servant. How? Whose servant? This consciousness servant. See, we are taught to cultivate our intellect such a degree, we think we are the intellect. We stay in intellect, we operate with intellect, we live with intellect and senses, right? But there is a way to turn inward and realize who you are and then use the intellect and senses. But now we are victims of that. See, this is the fundamental thing about physical sciences and psychological sciences. Physical sciences, you have an object outward. You have to prepare that, it will be okay. But in psychology, you are the subject. You cannot look outside. When you look outside thought, that means you are not in your witness consciousness, you are looking outward. This is the fundamental thing a lot of people miss is thought is actually outward to our consciousness. It is
Well,
in
consciousness?
consciousness. Consciousness,
It's out.
consciousness has as a property thought, but we are using thought to understand consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you are always enmeshed in the thought and trying to solve the thought with thought, like Michelle was telling, and it is always like feeding on itself. And that's the nature of the brain. See, the more we are aging, the more we are studying, the more intellectual, the more neurotic we become because of this. Like, can we stop the mind and then relax? Only kids can do that. But we kind of employ that and then we shift into that. Why people, adults don't have spontaneous joy? Because we became neurotic. Neurotic, nothing but one thought leading to other thought, feeding on each other. This happens all the time. And then information overload is kind of compounded this. Eckhart Tolle, I think Michelle, you tell me that. You all read Eckhart Tolle? Eckhart Tolle, the German.
No, you said talking about the Eckhart Tolle, the Paths Now and the New Earth.
Yeah. Oh, no. So he pointed out something very simple that is written way back thousands of years ago too. You know what he said was the modern René Descartes. He's the modern philosopher, French philosopher, who said, "I think, therefore I am." You know, that was a fundamental mistake of Western civilization. I think, therefore I can. I am is one step short of who we really are. I think, but that's not me. I think is a faculty of mine. I am conscious, therefore I am. If you are that, then you will be in your consciousness and you'll be able to look at those things. You see, like for example, Michelle, you are describing, right? You can see that, you are going back. Who is that seer? Who is that thinker? That is the consciousness. So once you have that, then it can be silent, the thought, and you're blissful.
I'm still working on that.
Yes. All you have to do is conscious living. Conscious living means you are present. You are attending to what you are doing. Do all the day. And then in the evening, then you will find out all the buried thoughts in you from the past and everywhere, they come up. And when they come up, you let them go. So the practice of meditation becomes a habit and then deeper and firmer as you go along. So this abiding in the self is the ultimate in the meditation, right? So that means you are not abiding only the body and the mind, but actual consciousness you are abiding. But you are staying there and treating this body and mind as your tools. You are the owner of these properties. Now what happened? The properties became the owners. Thought owns us. Body owns us. That's why this reduction medicine, all this came up. But in the past, it's like a holistic thing. So what I found was when I really understood this mind being my property and moved beyond it, my health improved 100%. So I can see it immediately. Who is this reacting? Why you have to react to this? Is this permanent or not permanent? It's not permanent. Why do I have to bother about it? In one stroke, without any counseling, any medication, everything washed out. That is the thing. Then you enjoy what you have, and then you do what you have with completeness, then the quality is better. Because there is no mind, like that cricketer, he has only the ball. His mind is not moving, thinking of, oh, what happens if I don't score it, what happens? All those things. A lot of good players, even Michael Jordan said, I don't know, I'm in a zone. I just put it there and it goes into the basket. He practices, gets the technique, and then he is not thinking. The less you think, the more you can play better. Life is also like that. But then we want to think, and from thinking, everything comes. That's only for physical things, not for psychological things. If you want a focused, non-agitated mind, then you need to understand those processes and then use it only when you need it. This is something I can tell you. You can make the mind your slave. But lots of times people don't even admit that the mind is their boss. Right? If they don't admit, they cannot fix it.
Yeah.
They say, oh, that is too difficult. No, just focus on whatever you are doing. This senior guy was saying the other day, he comes and evaluates the pitch, he evaluates the wicket and everything for the cricket, and he's thinking a lot about that. The other guy, who is a swashbuckling hitter, he comes and he says, oh, I just see the ball and hit it. He doesn't worry about anything else. So what is happening to him? He is scoring like anything. This is very tough for people to really get to that, because we build expectations, we build fears, we build all sorts of things to people, right? So they cannot be spontaneous. They cannot be just like I go to my patient loves me, I love the encounter, and they come off and I give them everything, right? So for example, one guy was there, he was telling me that he was taking insulin differently at home compared to here, and they kind of messed it up, his blood sugar. Then I listened to him, I understood what he was doing. He was not eating as much as he was eating here, because at home he has to make it a little. But these people give it for time, not according to the hunger, right? So he's eating more, and then his insulin is also, somebody comes and checks, and somebody gives a different time and all that. There was no discipline like it was at home. So I listened to him and told him, okay, you take charge of your insulin, and the nurse, ask the nurse to come on those times and eat only when you are hungry. So he was very happy. He got his blood sugar control in the next few days, you know. But these people want to interfere with that because they are mechanical. They want to be like that. So that kind of thing is always there in the life. See, remember what I said? Ancient civilization where internal happiness, internal being is given preference. That is the civilization. So if you say Lupe, I say Michelle, I say Satya, or anybody, what I do, I have to see that being inside. That was ancient civilization. From that civilization, we kind of move to improving the outward life, comforts and all that, at the expense of the being. That's why wherever we go, stress is because nobody gives a damn about what you think, what you are. They just want things to be done properly. Profit should be there. Nobody gives how you feel and all of that. They think it's pampering if you do that. But actually, real good employee care is where we attend to all the concerns, all the problems of the employees, and then the employees will be loyal and produce better. But if you focus only on the external money and rewards and all of that, they will never be they won't feel that they are protected. They are valued. See, all the management principles are involved in this too. So then what it becomes is, you become a egoless servant leader. They love that leader because he has no ego. He has no personal agenda. But then most of the corporations and all, 99% egoistic, suppressing, making people, no being. And then they'll talk about mindfulness, compassionate practices and all that. But they are all in the thought only. They are not getting out of the thought structure. They want that inner happiness feeling and all that, but what they are using the tool is intellect. The real tool is
Absolutely.
intuition.
You see, yeah, what happened around you're talking about, it's understanding, but experience is totally different thing. One's the intellect world, one's is the exponential world. And that's why it's so hard for, I think they're saying from mind to heart is the longest journey.
No. Actually, it can be longest journey or it could be second. I will tell you how it is. I will give an analogy. You know the chariots?
What?
Chariots, in ancient Rome and ancient India, they have these chariots that are drawn by horses. It's like a
Carrier, you say?
Chariot.
With
Yeah.
two wheels.
Two
right?
wheels, and then horses are in front, and then somebody will be riding in that, and other guy will be driving the horses.
Uh-huh.
You remember? So it has got a chariot, which is a physical structure that is anchored to horses, right? And the horses have these reins. That driver will be controlling the horses with the reins, right? And then there is a passenger who is the main person he is transporting, okay? So take the chariot as your physical body, okay? All the horses are your horsepower, are your desires. I want to do this in life and all of that, right? And then you want to go somewhere, the horses have to know, right? Has to be directed, right? And then if you let them go, whichever they want, they will go all over. Like the senses, you let them go. That is what the Western civilization promotes, sensory indulgence, thinking that that is the best thing about life, right? Now, the reins are the directions given to the senses. They are coming from mind, thoughts. They're going all over, you want to control them, right? And then how he does, he has this intellect, he has this understanding of life. That is the intellect. Discriminates this way, that way. That is the driver. Who is he driving? He is driving the soul.
I'll be back in 2 minutes. My husband needs the car keys.
Sure. We'll be talking a minute. Okay. So now, if you think you are the body, or if you think you are the intellect, if you think you are the thoughts, if you think you are the senses, then you lost yourself. The main thing is that rider who is riding the chariot is you, the conscious self. We are not in there. We are either in our intellect or in our mind. The mind is thoughts. Or we are indulging in the senses. Or we are worried about the body. See, once you have that discrimination, once you identify who you really are, everything becomes much easier. I would tell you, my physical health is better once I had that breakthrough of how to have my mind be my slave. Ego, my slave. That's what I'm trying to share with people too. Because I feel how it was when I was, I'm a physician, I'm running a practice, doing that, this and all that, meetings and everything, but then reactions to those people exploiting or doing things that I don't agree with them, because they are working for the money and I'm working for the patient, there was a conflict, right? Who is reacting? My mind is reacting. Are they going to change? No, they won't change. Even now, you see what they are doing. Biden wants to have everybody united. But these people are fighting on something that is not going to help that unity and is not going to help to solve the problems. Both parties. They're not helping you to get united and then go and solve the problems. World problems will be solved, right, if they do that. Look at what they're doing with our coronavirus. They let it spread mainly because they were hung up in their own beliefs. Mask is not good. So what happens? So even if you take our stress level, very, very important to understand how mind operates and get it under our control. Put it reins on the desires and then reins on our thoughts, and then use discrimination of our intellect to realize who we are. And then the problem is to realize this also you have to use the thought. But if the thought is going all over, how can you do that? You see, this they described it way back. They call it um, being, consciousness, and bliss. There is a book written on this, but that is a centuries-old philosophy in ancient India. But they don't talk about a particular god. They don't talk about a particular Hinduism and all that. They talk about only this, and they accept all the living creatures have this. So they don't discriminate that I don't know who is Lupe, but I can see that she is a human being. So I want to relate to the being rather than the human, which is the body mind. You may have different thoughts, different conditioning, allow that, but basically, essentially who you are, that being. Once I see the being, I have no discrimination. Michelle can be one corner of the world, I can be here and you can be there, Satya can be in India and all that. But essentially being. You have to be able to relate at that time during work also. Then actually our mind works better. Unconditional acceptance, and then leave it to the other person. We feel better. That is the point I'm making. We feel better. We feel. What do you think about that? Make sense?
Yeah, sorry.
So now the question is like, say we relate to human being, right? It's great. We practice
being in the human.
Being. Yeah, being. The being is the essence, the being the conscience level. I like say, I'm a conscience as essence. Michelle's conscience as essence. You as conscience as well. So there's no division as well.
That if that is not there, we won't have our body minds. That's the life force. That's the life force. That's the consciousness. If that's not there, we won't have our bodies and minds. Use that body and mind to make your life better. But don't be body and mind, then you cannot do it. Because body wants to get up in the morning, doesn't want to exercise, it has its own mind, then it will drive you. Right? We all experience that. In the morning, I don't want to do exercise today, but then we kind of internally motivate and all that, not from the mind, from the being, then it becomes no effort. You understand where the body is coming from, what kind of. Yeah, Michelle, go ahead, please. You were saying something.
Yeah, it's because I am loving the journey that I'm on, because it's bringing me to this and this and this and this and this, and constantly taking responsibility of myself. And when I learned that it was my responsibility, not anyone else, that was the biggest part of my life and the hardest couple of first 2 years.
You're
I
100% right.
Everything.
You are 100% right. It's our responsibility to be being, not the other person. Exactly.
Nope.
If you come to that, then try to be in the being all day. How? Being in the present, being conscious. And then understanding the reactions are mind going through, body going through. Suppose you are hurt, you have a, you have, I could do a lot of things without anesthesia by myself because of this, and then I could sleep much more qualitatively now. I mean, that's a big topic anyway. But then all I'm saying is not gloating or not saying things about that. I'm talking about the changes I've seen. See, I'm a product of the modern civilization, modern technocracy, So I'm a product of this kind of education, conditioning, stress, and all of that. Okay. So now you learn, what you do is you share. They don't have to follow, they don't have to be my students or anything. They just share, this is the satsang. What they do is they share valuable information, valuable insights, valuable realities, valuable truths, and then let the truth be pursued by other person, verify and do that. That ancient India I'm talking about is practiced by very few people in India now, because they also lost that. But then it is still alive because a lot of people kept it alive. And then this only for people who wants to do this. But doesn't have to be an Indian. Any human being can see is it truth or not. Not because that even in biblical or Judaism or Muslim, like for example, I was watching on the Makkah, there was a beautiful documentary they made on Amazon. The other day I saw it. And for the first time, they allowed cameras into Makkah. So they were showing how this is fantastic, beautiful structures inside if you go. And then how they kept it clean, how they are working in unison, so many thousands of people. And it was fantastic to see that. I mean, they are practicing that religion and all of that their thing, but the same thing, same mind, same belief, same thing, in another religion are the same thing there. But the dedication, the way they are doing is very, very impressive. I was so impressed by the buildings, by the beauty, by the coordination of operations using modern technology and then ancient practices. It was phenomenal. But I don't have anything against any religion because I don't even claim the particular religion. It's all meaningless to me. All are human beings. They can practice what they will know. But once they understand that, they may come out of that, like I did. But doesn't mean we have to throw everything Hinduism, all the Vedanta, Hindu, they are not Hinduism actually. There is no ism there. See, this is the thing. Don't believe, investigate and inquire yourself. Otherwise, your conditioning will come as this is right. I don't want to listen to anything else. That's another problem. Science, the people who understand the science, they follow the truth. Even if you do a study now and you found something is working, that can be changed because somebody else can go and to discover the truth. Earth is round, but before Earth is flat. And then only few galaxies are there now. Ultimate. Right? So what it is don't have a mind that is belief-ridden, conditioned, and thinking for its own and leading your life. The meditation purpose is this for the modern life. But actual ancient meditation and nutrition was, we'll have a simple life. We won't take so much from the earth. We will take only a few things. But what we do is we will sit down and go into ourselves, turn our mind towards inner, and then discover this being. And out of that meditation, they had so many insights into the human psyche, into the human body, human physiology, and all that. So all these medicines, ancient Indian medicines, all those things came out of that. But doesn't mean that only that is the one that we need to. I'm into computers, I'm into informatics, and I'm into medicine and all that. But I know the limitations of that and this other. But everything. I don't hold my MD much, my MBA master's much, but this insight into these meditations, I value the highest. The value that they gave to me. Doesn't mean I'm going to enforce this on anybody. I'm just going to introduce them like this. Everybody wants to do a half an hour meeting so that they will get some business out of it. In the LinkedIn also, I was questioning this. Are you guys are really examining anything deep, or just everybody says everything is okay and all that? Then I asked her, what is the reality in you? Are you able to have this energy, joy, and happiness that I'm talking about? Very few people want to go beyond their condition. Yeah. Yeah, Michelle.
You need to unmute yourself, Michelle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've a lot of years since I was young, I've been working in sales in some kind of way, and I always wanted to find different ways to do something, and every time I wanted it to be personal in a way, so it was underneath, because cells can be so cold. And also I think LinkedIn has changed to be very much better. It's a positive place to be, but it's still with a purpose of that it's, it's business and so on. So me sending the message that if you're open, we can have a talk for 30 minutes and let's see what comes out of that. This is for, I love talking to people, and it's actually out of the, for me, because I together we can see if there's something, instead of going, okay, I have this and I want to sell this to you and to everyone, da 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 da. That's not, I have found that's not.
Now, let me put it in my perspective.
Yeah.
What it is, if we examine it, it looks like how to live was explored by ancients. How to live, what to do with our body, what to do with the mind, and all this. But modern, we did it to how to make a living at the expense of everything else. So you have to make a living, that's fine. But why do you limit yourself there? Why didn't you go? That is the human beings, right? Animals, they live like that and then they die. But human beings have this consciousness where they can explore who they are. What it is it is the inner strength that you discover. It is the immense joy and happiness you discover. But we kind of reversed it. Now we are miserable. We have so many divisions. We have so much inequality. So many people don't have. I was listening to WHO yesterday. They were saying in Africa, they have given only to 20,000 people when they have 2-3 million people, I think. And they are having so much problem for the vaccine distribution and all that. So these divisions, all these things will only go when you accept all are human beings. And also another thing that WHO said, I agree, unless you take away this virus from everywhere, it won't go. You cannot say, I'm in the first class compartment, I'll treat only these people, third class I won't. They will come to you in the plane, right? But people are not conscious about it. All these Congress people, they went and all the legislators, they took the vaccine first. They did not even give to the first line workers in the Capitol building and all that. Security and all those people. So, you see, this inequality is there because the way we want to make everything is about making a living. Actually, your skills to make a living are better when you realize yourself. It's so simple after you do that. I say, why people are missing it? But they want to be invested in their own intellectual conclusions or, country or whatever culture, whatever the isms that they have. All these things are really making difficult to make a living. Resources. See, look at the only 1% of people have all the wealth in the country. What about all the other people? How much they are struggling and doing everything, right? So all these things happen because when you made life living, only thing is how to make a living, how to work, how to make a living. Beyond what? After that, I want to indulge in sensory pleasure and I want to, but actually in yoga, what's called aparigraha, that's the practice. That is a preparation for the real meditation knowledge. Aparigraha means non-accumulation of things, non-accumulation of thoughts, non-accumulation of these sensory pleasures. Not
Nan what? I'm sorry. Didn't get
sensory,
it. Nan what?
non-accumulation of sensory pleasures.
Non
Accumulation.
non-accumulation.
Non-accumulation. Yeah. You want to gather everything, right? So many things we want to gather all the time. But we don't see whether that is even needed by other people. See, accumulate, and then you go to any American house, including our house, there are so many things, right? And then you take 4% of population, they enjoy 25% of resources in the world. That's the actual statistic. Americans are only 4%, but they enjoy 25% of resources. Whereas you go to Africa and other people, they don't even have minimum. This all because competition, commercialism, and consumerism, and that is not even giving you happiness and personal satisfaction either. You are always struggling to make a living all the time, right? Because most of the people, yeah. Michelle.
It's just, yeah, am I muted?
No.
You okay?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but sometimes I'm starting to see a pattern that no, I'm not going to talk about anyone else, but for me, I've seen uh, that I thought that money and work was separate from me. So it was, and keeping it separate, it was also something that I had to obtain. It wasn't it. So if I had to obtain it, it could also be unobtainable. So that's keeping it, pushing it ahead of me instead of realizing that it was here in me all the time. Just realizing that, and then things coming to me. I hope it makes sense in a way.
Well, let's
Yeah.
go at a fundamental question. Happiness is something that can be pursued, or it is already there and then you are not realizing within you.
Exactly. So everything is in me, and I decide that it's in me. Yes.
But the thing is, people are made to believe that happiness should be pursued, and these things, you get a car, you will be happy. You get a thing, they promoted that and spoiled people. But then the people pursue that. When they get it, they don't feel that is enough. See, most of the problems are that. You see, this is why I'm saying ancient wisdom, when it is combined with modern technology, science, and all that, can create a comfortable, but not addicted to the comforts, comfortable but happier life, because you discover these are needed for my essentials or water, that's okay. But the psychological needs that they created, like a greed or like feeling good about having those things, that is the problem. All these people who are burned out, ask them, they all say, oh, we are burned out. We're burned out because we are pursuing this, we think that, we think this and all. Then we tell them, why don't you stop that and look into yourself? they will get very mad. They want to blame everything else outside. But they are victims of the system, no doubt. That's why I kind of feel compassionate and try to help as many people as I can. But then they don't want to do the work. Sometimes then they won't be able to realize. That's why I want to concentrate on the big systems where the leaders can have that understanding, and then maybe it will taper down. Then it will be worth it, to really work in a system and then examine the policies, examine these routines, and then give value to the beings of the people, that kind of thing. You cannot just stay without professional. That's the way they create a system, but that should be everything. Yeah. Okay. So, any other questions? Look.
I would just want to share of, I think as we evolve progressively, I'm just looking back the years that how far I had traveled, just looking back those emotional turmoil that I was experiencing. And
it's all
just looking back.
It's called avidya. Vidya means educated. Avidya means non-education of these things. Me and you and we are all were in that avidya. We didn't know better. Now we're discovering, we are kind of make changes. First of all, admit that we don't know. Then, see, that is the purpose of the satsangs. You come stating that I don't know, I want to find out. I don't know, I want to see the truth. How you can see? Only by your own intelligence, by investigating and coming to the conclusion. If you are listening to somebody, he may have an ulterior motive. And then he won't tell you the truth. He will tell for his own selfishness. So that's why they said, okay, come for the truth, but find out by yourself. Listen, but think about it. And then once you find the truth, is it in your life or not? They have these systems, they're called three things they call Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Those are Sanskrit terms. Anybody saying anything, listen completely. Don't accept it, don't follow it, but the act of listening should be not from your background, but what it is. Airplane is leaving at a time. That guy is announcing, if you don't pay attention, you'll miss it. Right? You have to pay attention. What is the time is changing? Which platform is going? You have to listen to that. If you are occupied with something else, you are not listening, then you are going to pay for it. Right? After you listen, the next is manana. That means you have to go and investigate it. Is that really true? What is that? You have to think. That's called manana. Then once you have understood the truth, is that in my life? Did I listen? Did I get it? If I get it, is it real in my life? This is the standard by which you don't have to do anything unscientific. In science, what it is? What is the truth? Is the truth can be verified with so many studies? If it is verified, can we put it in life? Right? The same thing they did with the psychological being and all that, ancient, not just for years, thousands of years they did that. So the more I went into those works and investigated and wanted to know, I didn't want to be a believer. I didn't want to be a follower. I didn't want to put on anybody else's head, but I wanted to find out for myself. The first thing was, these rishis, they were very content with themselves. They had everlasting fulfillment within themselves. They were happy within. And then they went into the life to make living or to do art or whatever it is. And then they want to take only minimal and live with it, not with this consumerism and all. So we're kind of victims of all these things have come up. If you are intelligent, you say, oh, do I need this that much money? Do I need this many things? And then you stay away from it. Then you save the planet also. So this kind of unawareness, which is they call non-education of these things, has led us into this planet destruction, planet overwhelming, and human beings getting stressed out and not having a happiness in their lives and all those things. People, even before they know, they get into stuff that they cannot get out of. The same with work, with the relationship and all that, right? So what we have to do is, once we see the truth and practicing it, then we need to share with our people. That's all I'm doing. By myself, if I stay with that, I'm very happy. I don't want to convince anybody anything like that. But when I interact, because you guys have showed interest, I'm talking to you. If not, I won't, Right? Okay, let us end this here, and then next Saturday again we'll meet. Meanwhile, if you have something, you just text me, and if I'm free, I will call you or talk to you or respond. Okay, Lupe? That's what I'm doing with Lupe. If she has some questions, I'm telling her. Okay?
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Michelle.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I would love to connect if we're not connected.
Sure. And I can, you're on LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can search me, and also I can search you if you want to connect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
But thank you, Dr. Yao, and wonderful just being exchange, and really see your generosity and to share, so we can really experience life, I would say the essence.
This is a kind of a meditation session where we went and explored, right?
Yes.
It's not like
Absolutely.
kind of shared. This is a satsang I was trying to promote. Association of good people, exploring truths of life.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.